Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sunita. I'm going to show you how to install and run Java program using IntelliJ IDEA. IntelliJ IDEA is IDE using that you can run your Java programs. So friends, without wasting your time, let's begin. If you want to install IntelliJ IDEA, you can go to favorite browser and you can search for IntelliJ IDEA. So you can see here it is showing me result jetbrains.com, that is the official website. So I'll go to that website and you can see here it is showing me option for downloading. So I will click on this download button. So let me click on this button. It has taken me to website. It has taken me to web download page. So now here you can see I have two versions of IntelliJ IDEA. One is ultimate, another is community version. So community version is free and open source and ultimate is paid one. So here are the different features of ultimate and community editions. So you can see in community edition, few of the feature are not available because it is free and open source, and in paid one, that is ultimate edition, we have almost all features available for development and deployment. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to install community edition because it is free one. So let me click on the option download. So here you can develop Java program, or you can write your programs and you can run your programs of Java, but few of the features are not available in community editions. So for beginners, you can install community edition. So for that, what I have to do, I have to click on this download button. Here you can see we have two options. One is Windows exe and another is Windows zip file. IntelliJ IDEA is available for other operating system also. So what I'm doing, I'm clicking on exe button. So now it has taken me to download page. Now my download will start soon. So now you can see my download has started. So now you can see my download is finished. What I'm going to do, I'm going to click on this exe. So now you can see it has started loading my setup. Here what we have to do, we have to click on next button, and then it is asking me directory where you want to install your IntelliJ IDEA. So if you want to change folder, you can click on browse button and change. Otherwise you can keep it default. So let me click on next button. I'm keeping at default directory. So now it is asking me what you want to create. So I want to create shortcut on desktop. I want to have 64-bit launcher. So I'm taking this. Here you can update your context menu. That is when you right click whether it should appear or not. So I don't want to get added into context menu. So I'm not selecting this option, and rest you can keep as default, and then you can click on next button. Here is option available, update path variable. So since I have already updated my path variable, so I'm not going to check mark this option. If you want, you can check mark this option, but later on you need to restart your PC. So what I'm doing, I'm clicking on next button. So install. Installation has started. So now my installation process is done. What I have to do, I have to click on this finish button, or if you want to run it immediately, you can check mark this. So let me check mark this because I want to show you how to create new program also using IntelliJ IDEA. So then I'm clicking on this finish button. So now it is asking me privacy policy. So what I have to do, I have to check mark this confirmation box and then click on continue button. And then if you want to send statistic, your data statistic, you can click on send as anonymous statistic. I don't want to send, so I'm clicking on don't send. So now my ID is getting started. I have installed IntelliJ IDEA Community 2020.2. Since you are starting first time, so it is asking you UI theme. If you are a developer, go for dark theme. Otherwise, you can select light theme also. So I have selected light theme. what you can do now, you can click on this default plugin, that is next option, or you can skip this part. So what I'm showing you default plugins also. So here are few plugins which are shown over here. So if you want to run your program or create any of this kind of program, you can install this plugin at any point of time whenever you need it. So I'm not installing any of this. I'm just clicking on next featured plugin. So you can see we have so many plugins available for IntelliJ IDEA. So whenever you need, you can install it. So now let me click on start using IntelliJ IDEA. Okay, so my IDEA is getting started. You can see here it is showing me few options. I can create a new project, or I can open already created project, or I can import project also. If you have created project in any other IDE, then that project can also be imported in IntelliJ IDEA IDE. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create new project. So let me click on this option. Okay, so now you can see it is showing me new project option. Here you can see it is showing me project SDK. So I have already set Java 14 in my path variable, environmental path variable. So it is showing me that thing over here. If you have not added your JDK, you can click on add JDK button and you can set the path of JDK, or you can download JDK and add that path also. So friends, if you don't know how to add path to environmental variable, you can see my previous videos. In that I have shown you how to add path of Java into environmental variable. So now here you can see there are different types of projects available. You can select the category of project whichever you want. So what I'm taking, I'm selecting Java, and here is my SDK, that is JDK 14, and then I'm clicking on next button. Okay, so now from here, what you have to do, you have to click on create project from template and then click on next button. If you select create project from template, then you will be getting class along with a main method. So therefore, I'm selecting create project from template. And then what I have to do, I have to click on next button. Okay, then it is asking me project name. So let me give project name as Hello Java. And then here what you can do, you can select your location wherever you want to save your program. So just click on this dots and browse the directory wherever you want to save your project. So I'm selecting L colon and my Java tutorial folder, and let me click on OK. So path is also changed. Now if you want to give package name, you can give package name also. So here I'm giving package name as CS Corner, and then let me click on finish. So now my IDE has been started. You can see it is showing me tip of the day. This tip of the day is very important. If you are a beginner, you can see various tips which it is showing over here. So it shows about IDE and different features of IntelliJ. So what I'm doing, I'm just clicking on this close button. If you don't want to see these tips in future, you can click on this option. So let me click on close button. So now you can see it has created my class main with method public static void main. Here is the project tab. You can see it is showing me Java tutorial folder, and in that it is showing me various directory. So let me click on this SRC directory. Since my package name was CS Corner, so it is showing me that package, and in that it is showing me main method. You can see other options are also available, external libraries. So for running the program, whatever libraries are needed, it is shown over here, or you can add external library if you want. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to write a greeting from CS Corner message. So let me quickly complete that line. Just type S out and press tab. You are going to get what? Entire system.out.println line. And in that you can write your line whichever you want to print. This is what the message which I want to print, and simply I'm done with my program. So now next part is how to run your program. To run your program, you have various options. You can right click over here and you can go to option run main. Or here is also option available, this triangle, you can click on run main option. So or you can go to menu run and you can click on run main. So let me select any of this option, or you have shortcut also Shift F10. So I just click on run main option. Let me see what output I'm going to get. So now you can see it is showing me message build completed successfully, and it has shown me my output also. So no need of doing any settings, just you can click on run option and you are going to get your output. So simple it is to create program in IntelliJ IDEA. In today's video, I'm going to discuss different features of Java programming language. So let's begin. Java is one of the popular languages because of its various features. Features are also known as buzzwords of Java. Platform independent, object oriented, simple, secure, portable, distributed, multi-threaded, high performance, robust, interpreted, dynamic, architectural neutral. These are the main features of Java which makes it more popular language. So let's see all these features in details. Feature number one is platform independent. Java is platform independent because it does not depend on any underlying operating system. Once you write program and you compile program on one operating system, you don't need to compile program if you want to run on another operating system. So therefore, Java is achieving Aura, which is nothing but write once, run anywhere. Next feature we have as object oriented. Java is fully object oriented programming language, and it follows all the rules of object oriented programming language or OOPS. So few of the feature of OOPS are object, classes, inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, and encapsulation. Java works on classes and objects. If you want to write any program in Java, there should be at least one class. You can consider classes and object as real world entity. Take any real world entity, for example, student, employee, department, teacher, staff. They all have certain feature, for example, their complexity, their height, their weight, their age, name, and many more things. To manipulate these attributes or feature, we can use classes and objects. Another feature we have in OOPL is inheritance, that provides what? Reusability. Once created class can be reused instead of writing from scratch. Remaining feature I will be discussing in my video object oriented programming language. Let's move ahead. Next is simple. Java is simple because it follows all the syntax of C and C++. Hence, it's easy to learn. Java has removed many of the complicated and rarely used feature of C or C++, such as explicit pointer, operator overloading. Java also supports automatic garbage collection of unused or unreferenced object. Hence, Java is simple. Next, we have secure. Java is secure because it does not uses explicit pointer and it run under JVM or under the control of JVM. Security is prime concern in today's world. So, if you are developing any application using Java, they are going to be definitely virus-free system. Another feature we have as robust. Robust is nothing but reliable. If you are creating any application or system using Java, they are definitely going to be highly reliable system because Java uses a strong memory management technique which does not give space for improper assignment of memory during execution. Therefore, Java is highly reliable. Java is architectural neutral because its data type size is not going to change depending on architecture of your machine. If it's 32-bit architecture or 64-bit architecture, the data type size is going to remain same, which was not in the case of C or C++. Java is portable because it does not need any implementation code to run. Once you have compiled the code, you can carry it anywhere and you can run it to any platform. Next feature we have as high performance. Java is much more faster as compared to various other programming language because of its native code, but it's little bit slower as compared to C, C++ because of its interpreted language nature. Next, we have feature of distribution. Distribution is nothing but dividing your code onto different nodes or different systems. So Java transfer its execution of program onto a remote or on a local machine using the internet. In Java, we have concepts such as RMI and EJB. Using that, distribution is possible. Java also supports networking concept. Using that, we can do distribution of Java program. Next feature we have as multi-threading. Java program is divided into threads. Threads are smallest unit of any program. So a main program can be divided into smaller module for concurrent execution, and because of that we can achieve higher throughput. So any program can be divided into smaller threads. Last feature is dynamic. Java is dynamic in nature because it does not load all classes at once. It loads only the required classes or the classes which are under execution. Therefore, it is dynamic in nature. Friends, that's all for today's topic. Friends, if you are new to my channel, please subscribe it for more videos and do share my videos with your friends. And if you have any doubt, you can comment in comment box. I'm going to surely reply to your doubts. And friends, don't forget to like my videos. Friends, in today's video, I'm going to explain different concept of variables. What is variable? How to create variable and how to use variable. So, friends, let's begin. Java variables. If you want to store any values, you need a container. Java variables are nothing but container for storing values. So, what are data values? For example, if you want to store your address or your name or your age, they are nothing but your data values. So, store all this kind of data, we need what? Container, and that are nothing but variables. Variables or data, they are stored in memory. We give name to memory location. If you want to access your data or if you want to store data, you need to have access to memory location, and that can be done through variables. We can perform operations on variable, and whatever operation we are performing on variable, they affect memory locations. They are called variable because we can change its value at runtime or during programming. Next, how variables are stored in memory. So you can see I have drawn a diagram. Here I am having few data such as CS corner, which is a string data, Another is single character C. Next I'm having some data with decimal value 123.12. Next I'm having a normal number. So these are nothing but my data. To store this data, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create variables. And variables, they are stored in memory location. And each memory location have a specific address, or we call them memory location. So you can see in this diagram, CS corner, which is a string data, is having memory address or memory location 2000. Similarly, character is having memory location 3000. 123.12 is having memory location 4000, and last 123 is having memory location 5000. This is just an example. Memory location can be any address of your RAM memory. Next is how to declare variables in Java. The syntax for declaring variable in Java is data type followed by name. Now what is data type? Data type tells type of data which you want to store in memory. So for example, if you want to store address kind of thing, then data type is going to be string. If you want to store age, then data type is going to be int. Data type I'm going to cover in upcoming videos. So for time being, just understand data type is nothing but type of a data which you want to store. Now name is any name given to your memory location which is going to hold your data. So you can provide any name over here, but try to give suitable name. For example, if I want to store tax, I may give variable name as tax. If I want to store salary, I may give variable name as salary. So give suitable name to your variable. So now here I have given example of declaration of variable. So you can see roll number is my variable, and the type of value it can store is what? Int value. Similarly, name is my variable, and the value which it can store is what? String. So this string and integer, they are data type, and roll number and name, they are variable name. Java is strongly typed language. That means if you want to use any data, you have to declare variable for that particular data. So before using any variable, declaration is compulsory in Java. So next is how to declare multiple variable. If you want to declare variable of same type, then you can use the syntax like this. So type variable 1, comma variable 2, and so on. For example, age and roll number, they are of type integer. So I may declare variable like integer, roll number, comma, age, and semicolon. So similarly, if you have more variable, you can provide comma and you can declare the variable. So multiple declaration is also possible in Java. So whatever variable you are declaring, they should be compatible with the data type which you have declared over here. So if you have declared roll number variable, they must store value of type integer. So type of a variable should be compatible with data inside it. For example, if I have declared variable of type string, I can't store integer value in that. If I have declared variable of type integer, I can't store string into that. So variable should be compatible with the data which you are storing in that. How to initialize variable? So if you want to initialize variable, there are two ways. Number one is what? You can do initialization in your programming only. Another way is what? You can take input from user at runtime. So here is the syntax for declaring variable. So type name equal to value or an expression. Type is nothing but data type. Name is nothing but variable name given to your data, and equal to is an assignment operator. Then you can assign value directly or you can give an expression. If you have declared your variable already, then you can omit this type keyword from here. So equal to is an operator which is used for storing value inside a particular variable. An expression can be any expression which evaluates and gives. So here is example of initialization. You can see I'm having variable roll number which is having value 1. So, and data type is integer. So, data type integer, name is roll number and value I'm having as 1. And this equal to is what? Assignment operator. Using that, I can store value 1 to my roll number variable. Another thing I would like to focus over here, I'm using camel case for declaring variable. That is one convention in Java. So, if you have a variable with more than one word, so you can write first letter of first word small, then subsequent word first letter should be in capital. That is a camel case and which is followed in Java. This initialization int roll number equal to 1 is equivalent to int roll number. This is nothing but declaration of variable, and next line what I'm doing, this is nothing but declaration of a variable, and in next line what I'm doing, I'm just assigning value to this variable. So this single line can be splitted into this two line also. Int roll number semicolon roll number equal to 1 semicolon. Other example of initialization of variables are, for example, I want to initialize multiple variables and I want to assign values to it. So here is the example, string name equal to CS corner comma address. So now my name variable is having value CS corner, but my address variable is not having any value. So these are the values. In next example, I have given expression. So int sal equal to some value multiplied by some value plus 2. So this is going to be evaluated at runtime and the value will be stored in sal variable. So you can assign expression to your variables. How to print values of a variable? So in Java, if you want to print values of a variable, you can use print or println method which is there in system.out. So for example, I want to print roll number and name value. So here I'll write system.out.println roll number or system.out.print name. ln is going to print your data and your cursor will move to the next line. And print method is going to print your data and your cursor will be on same line. Unlike C where we were using %d, %f and so on for printing value of a variable, in Java we don't have to use all that. We can directly write variable in system.out.println and we can print values of a variable. Let me open IntelliJ and let me show how to use variables in Java. Okay, so now I have opened IntelliJ and I have created one program. I have shown how to create program using IntelliJ IDEA. So if you don't know how to use IntelliJ IDEA, you can see that video. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly declare variable over here. So int roll number semicolon. Then I'm creating another variable string name. In that I'm assigning value CS corner and then semicolon. Now let me quickly print these values. So I'll just write S out and tab and then I'm printing roll number and then again I'm printing another value, that is. So now you can see here it is showing me some error, variable roll number might not have been initialized. So this is what the message it is showing over here because I have not initialized this variable. And one more thing I would like to show you, if I comment this variable and if I am trying to use roll number variable, so you can see it is showing me error cannot resolve symbol roll number because I have not declared that variable and I'm trying to use that variable. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this comment. Now what I'll do, I'll assign some value to this variable. So I just now gave value 1 to this variable. So now you can run your program. You can run either by clicking over here or over here or over here. So let me click here. Run main. So you can see now it is showing me output as 1 and CS corner. This is the way you can create your variable and you can store values in that variable. Java constants. Constants are nothing but a variable but whose value cannot be changed. So if you want to use any value which you don't want to change further, you can go for Java constants. For example, pi value, math pi value. So that is never going to change. And if I want to use that value at several places, what I can do, I can declare constant and I can use that. Constants are immutable. That is, you cannot change once you assign value to that. That means if you reassign value to constant, you are going to get error. Java does not directly support constants. So unlike other programming language, here we don't have const keyword. If you want to create constant in Java, you have to use two special keyword known as static and final. Using that, you can create constants in Java. Java constants are used like other variables. The way you declare primitive variable or user defined variable, same way you can declare and use constants of Java also. Next is how to declare constants. So the syntax for declaring constant is static, keyword, after that final keyword, and whatever data type you want, give the data type and name of your constant variable equals to value. So here static is optional. If you want, you can give your constant variable static modifier. Then if you want to create constant, you have to use keyword final. As soon as you give keyword final, you can't modify data of your variable. So here I have used keyword final and data type, the data which you want to store for that particular constant, you can give that data type. And name is nothing but a variable name given to a constant. Again, constants are also going to occupy memory. After name, we have equal to value. Again, value is optional. If you want to assign value during declaration, then you can write equal to value. Otherwise, after declaration also, you can assign value to constant. So, here is the example. I have declared one variable EMP code, which is a string data type, and the keyword I have used as final. So, it becomes what? Constant in Java. Another variable I have declared as account number. The data type for account number is int and the keyword I have used as static final. As soon as you use keyword final, it becomes constant. Now you can see I have used uppercase while declaring constants. So that is a convention given by Java. If you want to create constant variable, you have to use uppercase. That is a convention, not a compulsory part, but follow that. EMP code is my constant variable. What I have done, I have declared this in capital because I am using Java convention. Another variable I have declared as account number. You can see account and number are two different words. So therefore, I am connecting them by underscore. So if you have more than one words, you can connect them by using underscore. And this convention is known as snake case convention. So here are few examples. I am creating constant for weekdays. So I am going to write weekdays underscore name. And suppose there is a constant exit underscore on underscore close. I am using snake case convention, that is, if it consists of more than one words, then I have to connect all words using underscore sign. Next is how to initialize constants in Java. So the syntax for initialization of constant in Java is very much similar to initialization of your normal variable. So what I'm doing, I'm writing static final type name equal to value. So you can see here I'm assigning value to my constant variable. So you can assign value during declaration or you can assign value afterwards also. So here what I'm doing, I have declared variable already and I'm trying to assign value to that variable. So static and final are modifiers of constants. Equal to is an operator which is used for storing value of a constant variable. Once you assign value and if you try to reassign value, you are going to get error. Here I have shown few examples for initialization of constant variable. Final string emp code is equal to E101. Since it is string, I have enclosed it in double quotes. Another variable I have created as static final int account number. So you can see this is what the declaration of variable and here is what assignment. So you can split your line into two parts. That is also acceptable in Java. Next is reason for using static and final keyword. Why to use static and final keyword for creating constants in Java? When you use static keyword, that variable will available for all the objects of that class and all objects will be able to access that variable and they will be able to change its value. So only once that variable is created. So that is what advantage of using static variable. Only once, it will not be created again and again for all the object or for all the instance. Now, when I'm using only final keyword, then what will happen? Multiple instance of the same constant will be created. So if I'm having 100 objects, then 100 times that final variable will be created. That is not utilizing memory efficiently. So if you are using only static or if you are using only final, they are not making my code so efficient. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use both static and final keyword. So if you are using static and final keyword together, then the variable will be defined only once and thereby making it a proper constant which has a common memory location for all objects. It is not going to occupy memory for each and every object. So the important is that it is created only once for all objects. So therefore Java uses static final keyword together. So I have shown in my syntax that is it is optional but try to use static with final keyword for memory efficiency. So the final syntax for using constant in Java is static final data type variable name and you can assign value to your constant. Next is advantage of using constant. So why to use constant and what are the advantage of using constant? Constant makes program more easy to read and understand. If someone else is reading your code, they are going to understand it very easily. Next important of using constant is what? Improve performance. Constants are cached by JVM as well as your application. So definitely it is going to improve performance. Another advantage is of using static modifier. Since we have used static modifier for declaring constant, so it is available without loading instance of a class in which it is defined. So what we are trying to achieve? We are trying to achieve efficient memory. This was all about theory of constant. Now let's quickly go to IntelliJ and let's demonstrate how to use constants in Java. I've created one project in IntelliJ. Now let me demonstrate how to create and use constants in Java. So for that, I'm going to use static final keyword and then let me give data type as string and my variable or constant name is going to be emp code and then I'm assigning some value to that emp code and then semicolon. If I want to access EMP code, which is a static final variable, inside my main method, I can access it directly without using object because it is a static variable. So let me quickly print value of this static variable. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just print value of this static variable. So let me execute this program. So you can see I'm getting output as E101. Now let me show you, if I try to assign value to this constant again, then what message I'm going to get. So EMP code is equal to E102. You can see I'm getting error over here. Cannot assign a value to a final variable. So if you use keyword final, you can't reassign value to that variable. That is what advantage of using final variable. So if you want to have certain variable which are going to be used multiple times, so what you can do, you can declare that variable as a static final variable. I hope you all have understood why I'm using static and why I'm using final. I'm using this EMP code without using object of this main class because my EMP code variable is static and I'm unable to reassign value to this variable because it is final. So in Java, if you want to create constants, you have to use keyword static and final. Friends, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe and share my videos with your friends and families. I'm going to explain identifiers in Java. What are identifiers? What are the valid and invalid identifiers? So let's begin. Java identifiers. Whenever you are writing any program in any of the programming language, somewhere you want to give name to your components. For example, if you are creating variables, you want to give name to that variable. What is the purpose of giving name? For identification purpose. So what is Java identifier? They are nothing but a symbolic name given for identifying a particular component. In Java, identifier can be used for giving name to variable, constant, classes, methods, packages, interfaces, and so on. So whenever you want to give name to all these components, you can use identifiers. Identifier allows programmer to refer symbolic name from any other places in the program. So if you have given name to your component, you can refer that component at any place in your program. Next is rules for defining identifiers in Java. So every language provides certain rules for defining identifiers. If you follow this rule, then your compiler is going to accept that identifier. Otherwise, it is going to throw you error. So here are few rules for naming identifiers. Rule number 1 is saying what? Whenever you are creating any identifier, it can use a character between small a to small z or capital A to capital Z, or it can use numbers also, as well as it can use two special symbol, that is dollar and underscore. Rule number 2 says always your identifier should start with character, or it can also start with dollar or underscore. Rule number 3 says that after giving first character as alphabet, after that you can give any combination of character or numeric. We cannot give or we cannot declare variable with a space. You can use special symbol like dollar and underscore, but you cannot use what? Space in between the variable. That is rule number 4. Next is there is no limit on the length of identifier. You can declare identifier as long as you want, but try to give name to identifier between 4 to 15 letters because they are appropriate and they are easy to remember. Next rule is what? You cannot use built-in or predefined keywords which are there in Java. For example, you cannot use main keyword, you cannot use string keyword, or you cannot use predefined keywords which are there in Java. Next is identifiers in Java are case sensitive. So if you are writing any identifier in capital and the same name you are writing in small, then that is a different identifier. You can see the example. I have given tax in small and then tax in capital and tax in small and capital. So these are the three different identifiers. So identifiers are case sensitive. This tax is different than this tax and this tax. It's recommended to give identifier as their values. So if you are storing age, so try to give identifier name as age, or if you are storing something related to name or address, you can give identifier as name and address. So these are the certain rules which are used for defining identifiers in Java. Next is Java reserve words. So here are the two categories of Java reserve words. Number one is keywords and number two is literals. Keywords are built-in keywords which are there in Java, which are used for writing program. So whenever you are defining your identifier, you cannot use this built-in keywords. Next is literals. So literals are nothing but values. So here few predefined value we are having, that is true, false and null. So you cannot use these values for giving name to your identifiers. Next we have examples of valid and invalid identifier. So you can see in this table I have given list of valid and invalid identifiers. So here is roll number. I am writing roll number all in small. First letter is starting with character. So this is what valid identifier. Second one is all are in capital. That is also valid identifier. You can use combination of capital and small. This is known as camel case. I can also create identifier starting with underscore or starting with dollar. So that can also be done. Another thing is that I can use underscore in between also. So if I have some big name, I can use underscore. I can have identifier with single letter also, and I can have identifier with combination of all small or all capital. So these are the certain example of valid identifiers in Java. Next column is invalid identifiers in Java. So few of the example for invalid identifier is given in this column. So you can see in this roll number, I have given space. So this is invalid identifier. You cannot give space between two words. You can use underscore, but you cannot give space. This is also invalid identifier because it is starting with number. Next is what? I star j. So this is also invalid identifier because it is using special character star. So only the character allowed is underscore and dollar. In this example, emp hyphen name, again this is invalid identifier because it is using hyphen. Date and int, they are built-in keywords in Java. So I cannot use this for giving name to my identifiers. Now next we have underscore, but here I'm using ampersand symbol. So again ampersand is a special character. So I cannot use special character for giving name to identifiers in Java. Last invalid identifier is what? Persons underscore name. Here I have underscore, but here there is apostrophe. Apostrophe comes under special character. So I cannot use apostrophe for giving name to my variable. So these are certain example of invalid identifiers. Friends, if you are new to my channel, please subscribe it for more videos and do share my videos with your friends. And if you have any doubt, you can comment in comment box. I'm going to surely reply to your doubts. And friends, don't forget to like my videos. I'm going to discuss data types in Java. Topics covered in this video are what is data type, what are different data types in Java, and different data type size. What is data type? Data type defines type of values that variable can store or variable can take. In any programming language, whatever operation you want to perform, for that you need some data. So how to define that data? By using data type. If you want to declare variable, at that time also you need data type. Data type tells compiler intent of the programmer to use the variable. Data type also defines attribute of a variable. All variable must be declared before they are used using data type. Since Java is strictly typed programming language, before using any variable, it must be declared. Next, we have different data types available in Java. So, according to the property which data possess, we have two categories of data type. Number one is primitive data type and number two is non-primitive data type, which are also known as reference data type. Primitive data types comes by default with a language. Here is primitive data type, that is integer, floating point, character and boolean. So this data types by default comes with programming language. Non-primitive data type like classes, interfaces, arrays and string, they are defined by programmer or by the developer. So Java developer included primitive data type for maintaining portability. So if you are changing from one operating system to another operating system, then you don't have to modify your code. This is going to remain common on all of the operating system. So it maintains portability. Also, primitive data types are types that are self-contained and holds atomic value. So if you are using any of this primitive data type, they are going to hold atomic value. That means they are going to hold a single value. Using non-primitive data type, you can hold collections of value. So now let's see primitive data types in detail. So byte, short, int and long, they are the data type that comes under numerical, that is a data without decimal places. So if you have any data without decimal places, you can go for any of this data type. Another numeric data type we have as float and double. They are used for representing fractional values or decimal values. So if you have numbers with decimal places, then you can go for float and double. Next we have char data type. If you want to use or if you want to store a single character, then you can go for char data type. Next we have boolean data type. If you want to store either true or false value or yes no kind of answer, then you can go for boolean data type. Next is calculating range of data types. So based on the data type which you have declared for a particular variable, the operating system allocates memory and it decides what can be the stored in that memory. So here is the formula which gives you range of particular data type. So what values a particular data type can store is given by this formula. So the formula is minus 2 raised to number of bits minus 1, comma 2 raised to number of bits minus 1 and minus 1. So here I have given square bracket, that means this both value will be inclusive value. This gives range of a particular data type. This range specifies the value which we can use for that particular data type. So let me give one example. I am taking example of byte data type. Byte data type occupies 1 byte, that is 8 bits. So now I am going to substitute this number of bits with 8. So minus 2 raised to 8 minus 1, 2 raised to 8 minus 1, minus 1. So what I am getting? I am getting minus 2 raised to 7, 2 raised to 7 minus 1. That is minus 28 to plus 27. So if I am using byte data type, I can assign value from, so in between any of this value I can use. If I am exceeding this range, then I am going to get error. This way you can calculate range of a data type. So you don't have to remember the range, you can remember only the byte it occupies in memories. Next we are going to see all primitive data types in detail. So here is boolean. Boolean is used to represent true or false value. The memory it is going to occupy is what? 1 bit. Boolean is having only two literal value, that is true and false. The default value for Boolean is false. I mean to say, if you don't assign any value to Boolean variable, it is going to take default value as false. Here are few examples. So I have declared variable is selected of type Boolean. Now you can see I have not assigned value to this variable, so it is going to take false value. Another variable I have taken is found, which is of type Boolean, and what value I am assigning? I am assigning true. So you can assign values either true or false. Next data type we have as char data type. Char is generally used to store a single character. So if you want to store only a single character like C, S, A, B, C, you can go for char data type. But while storing char, you need to enclose it in single quotes. You can also use ASCII value to display or store certain character. So if you don't want to store C, S in a character format, you can store its ASCII value also. Char data type occupies 2 bytes of memory, and the default value for char data type is /u 4 times 0, that is a 0 value. Then here are the few example. I have declared variable C1 which is holding single character S in single quote. Another variable I have declared C2, variable C2 which is holding 65, which is nothing but ASCII value of character A. Next we have byte and short data type. Byte data type is used instead of int. So if you want to store only a smaller value, you can go for byte data type and it saves memory. So for example, if you want to store values in a range -128 to 128, you can go for byte data type. Byte data type occupies 1 byte of a memory, and the default value for byte data type is 0. Default value for any numeric non-fractional data type is always going to be 0. Here is the example. I have declared variable n equal to 123 and the data type is byte. If I am trying to store value 128 or larger than this range, we won't be able to store that value. Another data type we have as short data type. So short data type is greater than byte data type, but it is smaller than integer data type. So if you want to store some value in this range, you can go for short data type. Suppose I want to store value like 23,456, then I can use short data type. The memory reserve for short data type is 2 bytes and the default value it takes is what? 0. Next we have int and long. So int is preferred data type whenever you are creating variable without decimal places, and the range you can see of integer is minus this to plus this, and int occupies 4 bytes of a memory and the default value for int is again 0. Here is the example of integer. So int n is equal to this value. So I can assign any value in this range. If you have very large value, then you can go for long data type. You can see this is what the range of long data type. The memory size required for long data type is 8 bytes and the default value for it is 0. For calculating factorial of a large number, we can't go for byte, short or int. We have to use long data type. Next type of data is floating point data, that is data with fractional values. Floating point data type are used for representing real number or a number which is having fractional precision. Java supports two floating data type. One is float, another is double. Float is also known as single precision data type and double is known as double precision data type. Now let's understand what is this single precision and double precision. So if you are using float, that is a single precision, after decimal it can hold 6 or 7 digits. And if you are using double data type, after decimal it can hold, or we can put around 15 values. The range for float data type is this, and the range for double data type is this. Memory required for float is 4 bytes, and the default value for float is 0.0f. For writing float value, we suffix f with the value. Here is the example. I have declared variable f, and here is my data, and we have to suffix f, or whenever you are assigning value to a float variable. Double occupies 8 bytes of memory, and the default value for double is 0.0, and you can omit d, or if you want you can suffix d also. The example for double is what I have taken one variable and then here I am suffixing d. It is optional. You can omit d from double, but you cannot omit f from float. Here is the table which is showing the different primitive data types available in Java, the size which it requires, and the range of the values, and the default value which it can store. So you can see Boolean occupies what 1 bit of memory, byte 8 bits, short 16 bits. I have given in bytes also, and these are the range. If you are unable to remember range, you can apply the formula for calculating range. And in Java, if you are declaring any variable, assigning values to that variable, instead of storing junk or garbage value, it stores default value. So this was all about primitive data type. Next we have non-primitive data types. Non-primitive data types refers to the objects, and hence they are called reference data types. So here are few example of non-primitive or reference data type: arrays, string, classes, interface, objects, enumeration. They all belongs to non-primitive data types. So if you want to use this type of data, you have to create object of this particular data type, and then you can use that data. So this was all related to non-primitive data type. I'm going to cover details of each and every non-primitive data types in my upcoming videos. Let me open IntelliJ and let me demonstrate how to use data types in Java. So I have started IntelliJ and I have created one project in that. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create few variables of different data types and I'm going to demonstrate how it works. So let me create variable of type char. So char c is equal to some value in that char. Then again I'm creating variable of type boolean. Boolean b is equal to true. Similarly, I'm creating variable of type byte. So byte by is equal to, now I'm assigning value 256 to it. So what I'm getting error over here. So you can see it has highlighted in red, and so you can see it has highlighted in red and it is showing required type is byte and provided is int. So what does it mean? The value which you have provided is not coming in range of this byte. You can see here it is showing the error that cast to byte or what change the variable type to int. So the value assigned is what? Greater than 127. So it is giving you option that you typecast it to byte, or what you can do, you can change it to integer value. So let me give value lesser than that. So that is a byte variable. Again, you can create double variable for storing your floating data. So double d is equal to, for example, I'm storing some value in that. And then next float variable, float f is equal to some value I'm storing in float variable also. Now it is showing me error because I have not suffix f here. So I need to suffix f here. So if I suffix, my error is gone. So character, boolean, byte, double, float, you can have short, integer or other data type also. And then what you can do, you can probably print the values of this. So let me quickly print. So char, then the character value will be printed. On the next line, I'm going to print Boolean value, that is B. Then again on the next line, I'm going to print byte value. So you can see here, I don't have to specify any format specifier. Automatically, just giving a variable name is going to print your values. Then again, next line, plus sign is for concatenation. So in single s out, I'm writing all my variables. So therefore, I have used plus sign concatenation operator, and slash n is going to come in double quotes because it is not variable. So my next variable is double D, and now I have last variable. So one more slash n I'm going to take, and my last variable is what? Variable f. You can see it is showing me error over here because I have not added plus symbol, that is concatenation operator. So you cannot have string along with your variable. So you should put what? Concatenation operator. So now my program is complete. What I'm going to do, I'm going to run this program. So let me click on run button. You can see now it is showing me the output. Whatever data I have taken in variable, I had just tried to print that data. I have told you that inside character you can store ASCII value also. So let me show that part. So here I have taken variable C1 and I'm assigning value 65 to 8, and then let me print this value. So now you can see it is printing capital A because 65 is ASCII value of capital A. Another thing I would like to show over here, suppose you have forgotten range of data type, then you can get range of data type also. For example, I want to print integer minimum value and maximum value. So I can go for integer dot main value. And similarly, I can print integer dot max value also. Integer is a wrapper class which is going to come in my upcoming videos. So I have printed minimum value and maximum value. Let me show you what output I am getting after running this program. Now you can see it is showing me minimum and maximum values of integer. Similarly, you can see minimum and maximum value of other data type also. Just you have to use wrapper class over here. For that you have to use wrapper classes. So for character we have wrapper class as character, and then for boolean we have wrapper class as boolean. For byte we have wrapper class as byte, and so on. So that topic I am going to discuss in my upcoming video, wrapper classes. This was just a simple demonstration of how to create data types and how to use it. You can create data type and you can assign value during design time, or you can accept value at runtime into this data types and variables. So that was all related to data types in Java. Friends, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe and share my videos with your friends and families. And please don't forget to like and comment on my videos. If you have any doubt, you can put in comment box. I'm going to definitely solve that doubts. See you in my next video. Till that, bye bye and thank you.